Rev up your engines!
Parrots 29 says, Scotty, why are trucks made out of fiberglass and plastic? Well, one, it's cheaper to make it that way, and two, it's less weight. And they're so worried about horrible gas mileage. Take the F-150 a few years back, they went to a lot of aluminum body parts, and I believe they shaved 800 pounds off the weight of the vehicle. That's a lot of weight to shave off. So they got a little bit better gas mileage. I mean, still, they're a big truck, and what do you do with big trucks? You fill them up with stuff, and then you tow stuff, so they're going to be heavy anyways, but knocking 800 pounds off helped. But of course, with plastic and fiberglass, it's much cheaper to manufacture. That's one of the main reasons they go that way, because it's just cheaper to make them that way. Big Boss says, Scotty, what do you think of the 2020 V6 Camaro with the 10-speed automatic? Well, I am not a GM fan, but that's a good transmission because that's a transmission that GM and Ford built together. Ford ended up building most of it. It's in the Mustang. They got it in their big F-150 trucks. It's a pretty good transmission. Very complex, but it's got a lot of power and gets the best gas mileage you're ever going to get out of a fast engine because 3 of the last gears, the last 3, are all overdrive, so you get better gas mileage. Now, but as for the rest of it, it's a GM product, and I'm not a fan. They don't hold up over time all that well, but that transmission is a decent transmission. As for the car itself, I wouldn't buy it. I think you're paying an awful lot of money for something that, in the past, they didn't hold up that well. I can't see why this year would be any different than the past couple of years. Simon Singh Sonny says, is it okay to buy a car from Carvana? Sure, it's your money, but you're going to overpay. I made a whole video on that. They just charge too much money. I've had customers buy them from Carvana, and I told them, I said, you paid $5,000 too much for that car. They really, literally are like candy bars in a vending machine. There's the price. You put your money and out it comes. You can't barter with the machine over how much the candy bar costs. It's a huge company, so I'm sure they end up getting crappy cars all the time because they got a big volume, many in, many out, and I'm sure things are going to slip through. I had a customer the other day bring me one, and unfortunately, you got to buy it and then the mechanic checks it out instead of the other way around, putting the cart before the horse. But I said, no, it's, not a good car, and they took it back, and they had a hassle, but they got their money back. But it was a hassle, much better to check it out before you buy. It's only logical. Edegard said, how are you able to keep up with current with today's changing technology used in new cars? Everybody shares information now, and of course I pay for professional websites that mechanics use where we share our information amongst each other. So when I see something that kind of puzzles me on a new car, I'll just go to their database and whap. Somebody on the planet certainly has seen the same exact problem. It'll say, oh yeah, Scotty, I saw that. Ugh. 3 days to figure out what it is, and here's what I found, and then I try that. You can keep up with technology these days. The information is out there. We live in a fast information society, which is a handy thing. Now, years ago, I used to be peed because I had to then buy all this equipment. Well, I don't buy any of it anymore because all these companies out there, they want to have their machines in my videos. And I'm honest. I don't say, oh, you pay me $20,000, I'll put them in. Send me the machine, I'll try it out. If it works, I'll use it in my videos. If it doesn't, I won't. 8 or 10 of them in here that are $5,000 to $10,000 scan tools, and some of them work quite well. Some of them don't. But I don't have to pay for them. I'm just using them to try them out to see if they work. And when they do, makes fixing cars a lot easier. Yeah, for you guys out there, if you're trying to fix your own, it gets to be a pain because I keep changing all that stuff and you got to keep up with the equipment. But I don't have to keep up with the equipment. You can get the information, but you still got to have some equipment. Lenoel Rivera says, can a CV transmission run forever? Well, no, nothing can run forever. There's friction, and eventually friction wears out all machines. They will all eventually wear out from friction. Now, what you want is one that wears out in friction in 100 years or so, not one that does it the first year. But all machines wear out by friction. There's always friction. You cannot stop friction. And of course, nowadays everything's computerized, and eventually electronic circuits will wear out. They'll overheat, they'll short out. Eventually everything breaks. But you want something that breaks in the long run and not in the short run. One Pari says, Scotty, I got an 013 Subaru Forester manual, tranny 150,000. Burns a lot of oil. 1 or 2 quarts a week, smokes a lot. Any recommendation to reduce it? Oh, wow. Well, basically your engine's worn out. I mean, do get your PCV valve. Change it, because if that's stuck open, it'll suck raw oil in. Pray it's it. If it is, you can praise Scotty. No, if not, and it's just worn, well, you can do stuff like you can put in, it's 2013, you could do stuff like put in heavy-duty oil additives like Lucas. Lucas makes one that's really thick for old cars and a thinner viscosity one for modern cars. That one is 2013, so you'd want to use the modern stuff. It might help it some, but if it burns that much and a PCV valve doesn't work, the engine's gonna eventually just crap out on you anyways. It's typical for Subarus. I mean, 150,000 miles is kind of the lifespan of those things, especially if you bought it used and the previous owner didn't change the oil all that often. KTMS says, best car for Uber, hybrid? Well, I'm not a hybrid fan, but let's say you want to Uber. Buy a brand new Prius. It's going to last you for a really long time, and it's great for Ubering because you get fantastic mileage and stop and go traffic. Last time I went to Seattle, I do internet business there. Every time I got in an Uber, it was Prius. It was all Prius Ubers. They're all driving them around. And they charge less, too. They don't rip you off because they're getting better gas mileage, so they pay us the savings on it. I mean, I went from downtown to the airport, which is a distance, it was like $21. So, yeah, they are good cars if you get a new one now. If you bought a used one with high mileage, you're gambling with fate. But if you're talking about buying a new one and driving it for years, that's probably your best bet. Whoa, 24 says, I got an 05 Infiniti G35 with lifter tick. What's your best solution to fixing it? Best solution to fixing it is it's a 15-year-old Infiniti. Sell it to somebody else. Let them deal with it. You can try. Sometimes it works. There's additives that help that. They'll clean things out. Rislone is a good one. Rislone. Maybe it'll help. Put it in for a while, then you change the oil and filter, and then pray. If it doesn't help it, well, then you're going to have to take the engine apart, replace the lifters, or just live with it. Now, on the other hand, I've had customers driving those things for years, and they're ticking. They still go down the road, and they don't care, because they say, well, when I get rid of this, it's going to go in a junkyard. They make noises, but they still run okay. As long as they're not check engine light isn't coming on, it's not doing any serious damage or anything. Burrito John says, what's the safest car for my 16-year-old daughter? One that you're driving. All right, you want a safe car? You really want to, if you can go find an old grandpa car, an old Mercury Grand Marquis, a Ford Crown Victoria, those are big, safe cars. They really are, especially the modern ones, because they're not only big, but they got airbags, so you're really safe inside. If you can find one, a lot of old people retire and they got low mileage. If you can find one, they are really safe. You put a seatbelt and you got airbags, and those are pretty safe vehicles. There's no arguing that. And you get them cheap enough, when they're older, then they don't go for all that much money. A lot of old people like them, so a lot of old people, when they don't drive anymore, somebody sells them and they get whatever they can get. Abem says, Scotty, should you get a Honda Fit or a Nissan Rogue? Honda Fit by far. Those are excellent made vehicles, especially if you get a standard transmission, but even with an automatic. The Nissan Rogues, they fall apart as they age. I had a customer last month called me up. They said, hey, help me, I'm in a parking lot. So I go over. There's their car, and the axle snapped right off on the front. I mean, the garbage as they age. Honda, I've never seen that happen to a Honda. They're really well-made vehicles. Alexander Castillo says, I got a 2014 VW Jetta 1.8 engine manual tranny, 120,000 miles. It runs fine, but in cold startups, instead of idling at 1100, I was about 9. There's no check engine light. Okay, what you want to do is watch my video, how to make your car run better with a little spray cleaner. There's 2 types of cleaners. One's for the throttle, one's for the MAF sensor. And what you want to do is clean it all off, just like I do in the video. And a lot of times there's just carbon buildup in there, and so everything isn't working right. And you clean all that carbon out, a lot of times they'll go back to running perfectly fine. And also, of course, look for vacuum leaks. Listen for sucking air where a hose or something fell off. A lot of times the cleaning will do, especially on a Volkswagen. Those MAF sensors really need cleaning a lot. Stefan Spahn says, Scotty, my Toyota Corolla 1996. Mechanic says AC compressor's old. Should I change it before it breaks? As it still blows cold air or keeps going? Well, you said it's old, but you didn't say it was making noises or anything. If it works perfectly fine, just keep driving it. You never know. My 94 Celica still got the original compressor on it, still blows freezing cold. Who cares? But on the other hand, if it's making noises when it's running, yeah, change it now sooner than later, because if it is making noises, if something breaks and it throws metal in the system, it destroys all the system. So that you'd want to do. But if it does make noises, it still works, I'd leave it alone. Why throw money into something you don't have to? John Doe says, it's a Pontiac Vibe with a 1.8 Toyota engine, a good car. Okay, the Pontiac Vibes are pretty much the Toyota Matrixes, They were very similar cars. They're good cars. I mean, they're not as good as the Matrix. They still got some Pontiac parts on them. My Like when I work on them, I see they have GM Delco alternators instead of the Toyota Nippon Denso alternators. By and far, they're decent cars, especially since they don't make them anymore. You can usually get them cheap, and most of the parts are still readily available. So if you get a good deal on one, hey, get it. They can go 300,000-400,000 miles if you change the oil regularly. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.